What's the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Welton, joined by Sergeant Welton. Glenn, how are you?
I'm excellent.
You're gearing up to head to work tonight.
I know.
You got to sleep in until 6. That was nice.
Yeah.
Doesn't always happen.
No, it's one of those things. Working all night is an adjustment for sure.
Yeah, but the dogs slept, so we slept.
Yeah.
And then they still slept even after we woke up.
I know, especially Bo. He was very out of it this morning.
I know, my little old man. I wanted to talk about the cost of hypervigilance, especially as it pertains to being a first responder household. And admittedly, I think that this is something that I work on much more than you. And I think a lot of that, I've been thinking about this. I think a lot of that has to do with my interest in my studies in human behavior and, studying body language and things like that. And it's exhausting. It can be exhausting. I was thinking about the last time that we went to Las Vegas, and I'm not sure what it was, but for some reason, my guard is up post-election because I'm just like, things are going so good. Like, I don't want anything to happen. I hope nothing happens, but I feel like my hypervigilance is a little bit heightened, although me, in terms of how I feel about your safety being a police officer, has decreased in terms of me feeling like the threat is increased, because the last 4 years I have felt like all police officers' lives have been in danger more than they ever have been before. But I found myself just being like drained when we were in Vegas. Having
this hypervigilance, it's wearing mentally, physically, and I don't think most people recognize it. It can be very exhausting, and it's knowing how to turn it on and turn it off so quickly. And just like when we're working on patrol, where you go to a hot call compared to just a normal everyday type call, being able to control your adrenaline dumps and your highs associated to where your physiological reaction is under control, you're able to manage it.
Yeah, and so first responders are trained to be able to scan for threats and then really anticipate danger. And I know for me, this too might have something to do with the fact that my dad was gone all the time while he was working. And I remember that fear that I felt of like being home without him there. Sometimes he had to go to these LA conventions and he would be gone during the weekends. And then of course he didn't get home until really late. Then he left really early. So we were home alone a lot. And I never felt that sense of security and protection unless he was there. So I can remember even at a young age, like scanning through the notions of like, okay, where would I hide? Where would I go? What would I do? And this isn't something I ever talked about. And, my folks never felt the threat. So they never felt the need to be able to talk about some kind of preparedness plan with any of us kids either. And I know for me, when I'm out in a public place, I'm constantly looking at eyes and hands. That's like the number one thing that I'm scanning. And if visually acceptable, then I look at the direction of someone's feet.
Yeah, being able to look at all those kind of signals, because eyes, hands, and feet really are going to point you to who that person is and how they're responding to any given situation. Being able to analyze them in a quick fashion to say, okay, this is a threat, this isn't a threat.
Yeah, and it can be hard to relax when you're at home. So whether you're here or not, some things for me is, number one, I think this probably goes above anything else. I'm more worried about an earthquake happening because it happens so much. So anytime that I hear something that sounds like an earthquake, then, my adrenaline just like da-da-da-da. And then later on that day, I get this adrenaline dump. But then, we have a really big house. And so there are noises that you're used to hearing. And I'm so thankful that we have cameras around our entire house, because if let's say it's dark and of course I'm home by myself, if I hear something, I don't have to go like peek out the window. That's how it was before we had cameras everywhere. Is I would shut the light off in that area of the house, and then I would open up the shutters and then try to peek out there to see. And then usually it's, we live in the middle of nowhere, so it's usually pitch black. And even something like that, you hear something and then it triggers you, and then you're hyper vigilant, and then you're going to keep hearing things, and then every little thing that you hear, it's going to be very difficult for you to kind of calm down.
Yeah, especially where we live, we have a lot of animals who come on our front porch, and you hear noises that you're not typically used to, so it sends off those red flags all the time. And that's the one really nice thing about having cameras, is being able to quickly just look, oh, nothing, or it's a bunny rabbit, or it's a coyote, whatever it may be.
When you're of the type to be hypervigilant, another thing too is it's really difficult to be able to relax and enjoy things in the moment. And an example of that is my dad, especially during the summer. He has a beautiful home, and he likes to host people that come over. They'll do barbecues. People will bring their families and their kids, and they'll hang out in the pool and the spa. And so anytime that there's like a family event that we feel obliged to go to, I feel very uncomfortable, even in my childhood home, with these essentially strangers, right? There might be people I've known for my entire life, but I don't know them on a personal basis. We don't hang out and we don't talk like that. And so I find it near impossible to be able to enjoy myself in those situations. Not to mention, like, I'm carrying a purse with a heavy firearm, and, I won't let it leave my side. And so things like that, I think that it's important to just be aware of what kind of characteristics like this you might see in yourself.
Yeah, because that awareness is very important to recognize whether because your hypervigilance can lead to other factors in observations of things too, to where you're not imagining things, but you're so running on that high capacity speed to where you're going to burn yourself out, to where when you really need to be vigilant, you may not be.
Yeah. And then of course we have things like overprotectiveness towards family members. Something that I'm thinking of is, we don't have kids, but we do have Ripley, my nephew. And I think about all of the time things where I've reprimanded him or reprimanded his dad, Matthew, and, they don't see things that I see and notice things that I notice, the realm of social media or being online as a child, for example.
Yeah, it's especially in today's day and age, people just, you throw your kid on a phone or a tablet, and you don't realize or recognize what's truly out there. And if you don't know what's really going on your kids' devices, they could be ingesting horrible content.
As a spouse of a first responder, something I think is so important to realize is that your partner may have had an entire day of nothing but hypervigilance. And when they come home, if they don't want to, engage in the catch-up talk or watch the movie that you want to watch right now, or, go somewhere with you because you've been waiting to go with them all day, it's okay, because they've just had the day that they've had.
Yeah, you need to have a balance with that. And I think it goes to both sides. Is sometimes in that first responder realm, you just want to come home and shut down, and that's okay to do that. But there's sometimes where you might need to get out of your comfort zone as well and say, hey, well, let's just go do it still.
I think it's important to have a transition routine after work, and then also incorporating things like mindfulness or even grounding techniques in order to be able to allow yourself to mentally start to shift out of that mode.
For me, every day on my drive home, I get in my truck and I have cues that I hit on my way home that shuts down from my hypervigilance to just okay, now I'm going home and I can live my life type of situation.
We can always set boundaries, whether it's at work or at home or even with our friends, as to the things that you don't want to have conversations about when you're at work or at home.
Yeah, having those boundaries set and speaking to your spouse, speaking to your friends, saying, hey, look, I was there. I experienced this situation, but I don't really want to talk about it. Making it okay to say that it's okay to do.
And also, it's not that we have to shut things off all the way. I mean, I know for me, I like the hypervigilance aspect of my awareness. That's something that I feel like is a primal instinct that is very much heightened. It's actually something that I have tried to improve upon and then build upon in terms of where my focus should be directed when I do feel like, our instincts are there for a reason, right? Your body is telling you why you should be hypervigilant. There may be cause for it. However, it can be extended far more than it should be. And so that's when it becomes very important for us to create this sort of balance between when we need to have that hypervigilance, when we don't, and how to kind of null some of it when it doesn't need to be that high. And then to just ask ourselves, like, is it valid for me to have this kind of concerned feeling that I have right now? Do I have to feel this kind of tension? For me, it's in my spine and in my upper shoulders. And, you notice all of the other things that are taking place where you're missing focus on what you should be focusing on in that moment. And I think it's okay to have, but I also think that the self-awareness and the understanding of needing to balance it is super important. I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below, and as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.